Right then, here's Wonderwall. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the A-Side. I'm your host, Riley. And alright, Matt, Mr. Britpop, you asked for it, so here we are. Today, I'm going to be ranking Oasis's albums from worst to best. Oasis is a legendary British rock band known for kind of pioneering the Britpop genre, or at least making it popular with albums like definitely maybe in What's the Story, Born in Glory, which are two of the considered to be all-time greats in the greater British canon of rock music. They're also known for flaming out and kind of having a rough career after their third album, Be Here Now. This is a band that I have kind of a complicated history with. I do really love this band, but I definitely do not love everything they've done. Is everything after Be Here Now garbage? Well, I guess you're going to have to watch this video to find out where I rank all of these albums. They have 7 studio albums and 1 B-side compilation. Typically, I would not include compilation albums, but I'm going to be making an exception for the master plan for reasons you will see. So, I don't want to waste any more time. Um, Without further ado, here is Oasis Ranked. Do you know what I mean? So, coming in 8th and final place is their 4th studio album, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. Now, this album is just really boring, guys. And that's the thing. That's the only thing I have to say about it. And a lot of these albums here near the bottom are just really boring and very kind of unremarkable in just about every way possible. Put it this way, after this video, I'm never going to think about Standing on the Shoulder of Giants ever again. It's just boring. It opens. I guess if I have anything to say about it, I'll say these things. It opens with this instrumental piece called Fucking in the Bushes, which, despite being a really stupid name, isn't a bad intro. It kind of rocks. Little James is the first Oasis song that Liam Gallagher, the lead singer, wrote and performed, and I think it's one of the better tracks on this album, actually. You can tell Liam was very excited that he wrote his own song, and he was very emotionally invested in it, even though it's not the best song. It's one of the better moments on this album because Liam sounds extremely passionate. And actually, with a lot of these kind of post-Be Here Now Oasis albums, my favorite parts are when Noel Gallagher, guitarist and lead lyricist and big brother of Oasis, takes over the mic and starts singing. I think the best track on this album is Where Did It All Go Wrong, which is a track he sings. It's a bit of a slower song, but it's pretty. But overall, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants is very boring, and it's probably nothing I'll ever come back to again. Coming in at number 7 is Dig Out Your Soul, this band's final release. And it's also kind of boring in a lot of places. This one is better, I think, in the middle of this album. It actually kind of starts to save itself a little bit. I'm Out of Time is this really kind of pretty song. It's very different for Oasis. Same with Get Off Your High Horse and Falling Down. I think this band starts to do some interesting things on this album, but then starts to lose it again. And by closing track Soldier On, you're ready to rip your hair out. This album gets boring again. But my big problem with this album is just how Beatley it is. And I love the Beatles. No, Oasis loves the Beatles. Obviously, the Beatles have been a very big influence on, or the Beatles have always been a really big influence on Oasis throughout their entirety of their career. But it's just so heavy-handed on this album. It feels like references are being thrown at you every moment. And even like musical things. Like one of the song's outros is the intro to While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And those kind of things are thrown all throughout the album. You've got like the chugga chugga, a chugga chugga googa on the end of I Am the Walrus pops up somewhere on here, and all these like references and stuff. He mentions this magical mystery tour, and it just starts to feel more like a kind of underwhelming Beatles tribute band rather than Oasis. It feels more like the Beatles, Beetles, rather than Oasis, and I think that's a little uninteresting. And the album does get pretty boring in places, but a pretty nice middle section that I think puts it above my number 8 pick, and wise Take Out Your Soul lands at number 7. And coming in at number 5 is 1997's Be Here Now, Oasis's third album. And this album is, I'm fixing my camera real quick, an absolute abomination. It's very, very bad. It is a train wreck. Um, yeah, it's one of the most glorious and epic flameouts in all of musical history. Um, and it's pretty bad. And I think the person who best describes the problems with this album is Noel Gallagher, the guy who wrote the album. Here's what he had to say.
It's the sound of a bunch of guys on coke in the studio, not giving a fuck. There's no bass to it at all. I don't know what happened to that. It's all, and all the songs are really long, and all the lyrics are shit. And for every millisecond Liam is not saying a word, there's a fucking guitar riff in there, in a Wayne's World style, Fucking air guitar gone mental. But Liam thinks it fucking rocks.
And I agree with those statements, especially the mixing. The mixing is so terrible on this album in so many spots, and all the songs are way too long. The production is awful, and the lyrics are just so bad. And it's just weird because Oasis didn't do anything different, really. They just flamed out. Um, Probably because they were all coked out of their fucking minds the entire time, but still. Um, it doesn't justify this album being the way it is. And I think you can hear just about all the problems with this album with the opening track, Do You Know What I Mean? Which is 7 minutes long, and the mixing is so bad. The guitars are so loud, and the lyrics just don't mean anything whatsoever. And not in the good kind of ubiquitous way either, where they're vague enough. They just are shit. They're bad. And by the end of the song, there's a moment where everything is mixed so loudly that it just stops becoming music. It just becomes noise, a buzzing sound that destroys my ears. And it's far from the worst moment on the album. You've got the uh, great song Magic Pie, and I say great sarcastically because it's 7 minutes of the worst thing Oasis has ever done. And I guess it's supposed to be like an allusion to like drugs or whatever, but Magic Pie is just really dumb, and once again, the lyrics are just so bad, and the mixing is terrible. There's the 9-minute abomination All Around the World, where you have to hear Liam rip off Hey Jude, the most snot-nosed, kind of bad-tempered assholes in most of British music are all of a sudden making this peace and love song, and you have to listen to Liam's nasally voice going nya 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 for like 9 minutes. Actually, I've heard that it's a form of torture in some parts of Ireland, um, that people have to listen to all around the world on repeat. What makes it even better is you get to hear it all over again in the 2-minute reprise that closes off the album. There's also the incredibly painfully repetitive Stand By Me, which you hear that line about a bajillion times throughout the almost 6 minute song. And that's the problem. These tracks are so long. You've got 7 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 5 minutes. You've got almost 7 again. You've got 9.5. You've got 7. It's ridiculous how long some of these songs are. And this album is not without its merits. And I know what you're thinking, Riley. If this album's so bad, why isn't it ranked lower? Why isn't it ranked in worst place? Because the first couple albums I ranked on here are just boring. This album is an abomination, but it's like a car crash. You know, it's terrible, and you shouldn't look. But curiosity gets the best of you, and you just can't help looking at it. Be Here Now is an interesting album for sure. And there are some high points. My Big Mouth, despite being about 2 minutes too long, is a really good song. It's fun. It's just, Oasis doing Oasis. The mixing, once again, is really bad, especially the rhythm guitar is so loud. Like, Jesus, Bonehead, we love you, but calm down. Especially because the lead guitar here from Noel is actually pretty good and doing some interesting things, but you can't hear it over the crunchy, loud, overbearing rhythm guitars. Um, I Think I Know is actually a genuinely really good song, and the same goes for Don't Go Away, which I think is one of the last great songs Oasis ever wrote. It's definitely the best song on this album, easily. And what I mean by that is Oasis wrote good songs after Be Here Now, but nothing that feels like this again. This song, Don't Go Away, feels like classic Oasis, and it's the quality that can stand up to a Wonderwall or a Supersonic or an Acquiesce. It's just a really good song. The title track is eh. Um, but I also like It's Getting Better Man, which is just kind of a, pretty upbeat song. Makes you feel good. It's 7 minutes, so it doesn't have to be that long. It could have been about three, but it's a solid song. So there are good moments I genuinely like on this album, but it's cloaked in so much garbage and so much bullshit with bad lyrics and awful mixing and production that this album just doesn't work. And that's the problem. And from here, this point on, Oasis never recaptured their former glory from their first two albums. And this is something you should listen to because it is interesting. It's a really interesting listen, especially when you listen to the first two albums and then this is kind of hearing what happened, seeing how everything just came crashing down. So, yeah.
Soul is hidden among you, and its words may wound my soul. You can't fill me up with what you got, cause my...
Coming in at number 5 is Heathen Chemistry. And it's alright. I don't have anything fresh and tile or witty or obnoxious to say about this album. It's fine. It's good. It's like a solid 6 out of 10 album. Um, Compared to Dig Out Your Soul and Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, it's much better. It's a lot more engaging in a lot of places. Where those albums are boring, this one stays pretty consistent, consistently good, and consistently engaging. Nothing ever great, keep in mind, but listenable, very listenable. And when compared to Be Here Now, why would I put this higher than Be Here Now? Well, it doesn't have a lot of the high points on Be Here Now. It doesn't have your Don't Go Aways or your It's Getting Better Man. But it doesn't have any awful, terrible moments that just like turn it off, like Magic Pie or All Around the World. It's just a pretty solid album through and through. I don't think there's really a bad song on here. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about it. It's fine. It's like a solid 6 out of 10 listen. I think Noel Gallagher carries this album. I think the songs where he takes the lead tend to be the best, including Little by Little, and my favorite track off this album, She Is Love, which I think is a nice little kind of ballady love song that Noel does here with some pretty interesting things on it, like some keys and stuff. So it's a pretty solid song. And overall, just a pretty good album. I don't think any of these tracks are bad, to be honest. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about Heathen Chemistry. It's fine. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's good. A lot of people rank it as the worst Oasis album. I don't get it. It's fine. I like it. Groovy. Coming in at number 4 is Don't Believe the Truth. And this album is actually really good. All the way through. I think every track on this album is good. Oasis kind of goes in more of a almost psychedelic direction on this album. And it's very interesting and experimental for Oasis. Listening throughout the entirety of this album, I find myself going, that's cool. Because they just try new things that Oasis had never done before. And these experiments just pay off. This band works with this more psychedelic edge. And like I said, I think every track on this album works well. I don't really have any in specific. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But just every song is really good. It's just consistently a really good album, which is strange because it's supposed to be Here Now Oasis, known for being a band that just flames out and was terrible after a certain time. Like it's something that people talk about, but this album is really good. It's somewhat of a hidden gem. I'm serious. Um, If you are one of the people who stopped listening to Oasis after Be Here Now or Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, go give this album a listen. You might end up really enjoying it like I did. It's just really good. I like this kind of more psychedelic edge to it. I like the direction it goes in. Some really pretty moments throughout the entirety of the album. Noel and Liam both sound great, of course. And it's just a solid album. That's all I have to say about it. It's just really good. Give it a listen. Coming in at number 3 is The Master Plan. Now, technically, this is not an Oasis studio album. This is being included on technicality as a B-sides collection. That being said, back in the day, this band's B-sides hit just as good as the band's A-sides and album tracks, because this album opens with Acquiesce. Fucking Acquiesce is an amazing song. It's absolutely mind blowing. It's one of the best songs Oasis ever wrote and recorded. And they heard it and thought, oi, this ain't good enough for an album. It's an amazing song. And a lot of these B-sides, like Underneath the Sky, the nice kind of, once again, another Noel ballad, Talk Tonight, just really great. Fade Away, Going Nowhere. Just a lot of really good songs. These B-sides are great. You've got the live cover of I Am the Walrus by the Beatles. And if you ever get a chance to go and look up, in 1994, they did a 10-minute live cover of I Am the Walrus, and it's one of the most amazing things you'll ever see. I really go recommend seeing that. It's pretty amazing. Go look it up on YouTube. That's where I saw it. Thank you, Matthew, for sending that to me. These tracks just work, man. They hit. It's good, especially Acquiesce. I love the fact that Noel and Liam kind of switch vocal duties. Of course, Liam is the lead singer, if you don't know. But I like it when Noel sings. I think he's really good at it. And I'm sad that they didn't do more of that interplay, kind of like Tom and Mark from Blink 182, where they switch off vocals. I like that they do that here on Acquiesce, with Liam taking the verses and Noel taking that great classic hook. And Acquiesce could have been on an album. It's one of their best songs. And like I said, that follows suits for a lot of these tracks, which are B-sides from the first 3 albums. So yeah, just a wonderful collection of B-sides. Of course, it's not all great. You've got some moments that sound like other songs because they eventually turn into those other songs. And you've got the Swamp Song, which doesn't really do much for me. I think it works better cut up as the interludes on What's the Story, Morning Glory, rather than its own track. But overall, the Master Plan is just a great collection of B-sides and rarities that you should check out. Now, coming in at number 2 is definitely Maybe. Now, I could say the words, tonight I'm a rock and roll star, and walk away. End it. Because that's enough to explain why this album is so amazing, and why this album comes in at number 2. Come on. It's definitely Maybe. It's one of the greatest rock albums ever made. It's just hit after hit after hit. Rock and roll star, supersonic, shaker maker, cigarettes and alcohol, Live Forever, Slide Away. Noel Gallagher just wrote all these amazing songs, and he got them all for one album, which is mind blowing. Every song on this album is just amazing. I love every single one. It's one of the greatest debut albums of all time. The fact that their debut album, their first moment ever in the world, was Rock and Roll Star, one of the greatest songs ever written, maybe my favorite Oasis song. I don't know. It's tied with Champagne Supernova. The fact that that was their introduction to the world just blows my mind. That there's no better way to introduce yourself to the world than a track like Rock and Roll Star. Let's talk about the track for a minute. I love the track. It's about kind of growing up in this bad part of England that the Gallagher brothers grew up in, not being very wealthy, and then ended up being construction workers in this kind of very bad area, and having all these bad things go on in their life. But despite this, when he's up on stage, when Liam and Noel are up on stage, they're a rock and roll star. Everything goes away. This is what they're meant to be, and it's their passion, and they're going to live for it. Live in that moment. So despite what happens, I'm a rock and roll star. And even though people are going to judge me and be like, you're wasting your time with this band, Noel doesn't care because this is what it's all about. And something I know I can relate to as a performer myself, being a part of drama club and a singer. I know, despite what goes on, the stage is my home. Um, and making YouTube videos as well. Despite people might look at me funny or judge me, this is what I do. This is what makes me happy. I'm a rock and roll star. And that's kind of that vibe to it. And while we're on the subject of kind of uplifting and having that vibe, a lot of this album is just extremely uplifting. It's one of those few albums that makes me feel good about myself, and one of those albums that I listen to and I'm like, yeah, you know what, Riley? You're good. You like yourself. It's okay to be you, especially a song like Supersonic that opens with the line, I've got to be myself, I can't be no one else because I'm feeling supersonic. Give me gin and tonic. It's just always stuck with me. The song is about just living your life to the best and to the fullest and being yourself no matter what happens. Be true to who you are and have a good time. Um, and that's just something I can embrace. Really, Oasis is proper rock and roll, and they really are one of the last few bands to kind of embrace this idea of living your best life, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, just going out there and having fun, especially on this album. Like I said, the positivity is absolutely radiating, especially when you hear a song like Live Forever, which Noel Gallagher wrote in response to Kurt Cobain, Nirvana's frontman, killing himself. And he heard all the sadness and grunge. And despite the fact that he loved Nirvana, he thought, all these people talking about hating themselves and all these terrible things. I'm going to write a positive song about what's great about life and why I want to live forever and how I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And it's just an amazing song full of positivity. And you get that throughout all of these, such as the classic Cigarettes and Alcohols, which I think probably is the best song to listen to if you want to sum up why Oasis is so amazing. It just encapsulates everything that's great about them. Smart lyrics, a great hook, Liam, the beautiful voice of a nasally angel. Um, it's just amazing. And of course, the amazing guitar work and everything that goes on throughout it, even though it is rather simple. And lyrically, it talks about things go wrong all the time, but I'll make it. All I need is to chill out, have some cigarettes and alcohol. Live your life, man. Be you, buddy. And that's what I like about this album, is it just feels like something that is about just being yourself and accepting life, and living it to the fullest. And that's exciting to me. An album that can make me feel like that, especially with all these amazing songs, like I said, classic after classic after classic. If you've never heard this album, you have to hear it. It's one of the greatest debut albums of all time. And it stands out as one of the greatest debut albums of all time from 1994, which is a year that's specifically known for having some of the greatest debut albums of all time. These are only two other examples. So it really is great. And to be honest, number one and number two are tied. They are. They're on the same level. They're pretty much interchangeable at this point. To me, they're both perfect 10 out of 10s in my opinion, and they're both amazing albums. I did have to pick one over the other, but just know these two are pretty much interchangeable, as I think Definitely Maybe is, of course, one of the greatest albums ever. So, coming in at number one is 1996. What's the Story? Morning Glory. Now, when writing this album, Noel Gallagher said that he wanted to write about the universal truths of lives. Everyone falls in love, everyone gets their heart broken, everyone has dreams. Um, and a lot of these lyrics kind of mean nothing in a way on a lot of these songs. They're very vague, and almost meaningless. And that sounds bad, but it's not, because as a result, these songs become pretty much universal, and ubiquitous. You can take a song like Some Might Say or Roll With It and kind of apply it to any situation in your life, no matter what's happening, because the lyrics are so vague and they're written about these universal truths of, like I mentioned, being in love, getting your heart broken, having dreams, getting back up again, all these things, that everyone experiences and everyone goes through. And you can take these songs and put them on any situation you're going through, and they will help you through the time. And a lot of these songs are really simple pop rock songs, but that gives this album such an air of populism, that songs like Wonderwall or Don't Look Back in Anger become anthems of the people. And I think that's pretty glorious. I think that makes this album near perfect. And you can take another song, what I think is the crowning achievement of Oasis, their best song, 7 minute epic closer, Champagne Supernova, when Noel Gallagher was questioned about what the line slowly walking down the hall faster than a cannonball meant. He said he had no idea, but when he sings it every night and thousands of people are singing it back to him, it obviously means something to them. And that really encapsulates what makes this album so perfect is while some of these songs have absolutely no meaning, they can be used for any situation in your life. Like I said, songs like Roll With It, or some might say Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger. And every song on this album is great. You've got some great chemistry between Liam and Noel on Cast No Shadow, probably the most emotional song on the album. A great, fun love song like She's Electric, and everything in between. Every song on this album is near perfect. Even the interludes are fun. Um, just the entirety of What's the Story of Morning Glory is great. The title track is just a rager, a kick ass song. Roll With It is great. I don't care what Noel Gallagher says. I love Roll With It. I think it's an amazing song. Every song on this album, from Hello to Champagne Supernova, is amazing, and I cannot give enough praise to this perfect, ubiquitous album. Of course, What's the Story? Morning Glory is Oasis's best album. It is close, but I would rank it at number one. It's my personal favorite. It's one of my favorites of all time, to be honest. Just a classic in every sense of the word. So yeah, let me know how you would rank Oasis's albums. Leave that in the comments below. Thank you very much. If you don't want to rank Oasis albums, just tell me, what you thought of the video, what you think of Oasis, um, and just say something because I like to read the comments. Anyway, subscribe, like if you haven't already. I've been the A-Side, and I will see you all next time.